Our meeting virtually, which is allowed under Governor Baker's declaration of a state of emergency. So roll call, please. Mike Barclay.
Mike Barclay present.
Mark Cameron.
Mark Cameron here.
Fran Collins.
Present.
I don't see Diane here, but she didn't say she's not coming, so maybe she's late. Mark Maggi.
Mark Maggi here.
Mary McGoldrick.
Mary McGoldrick here.
Vince Thornton.
Vince Thornton here.
Meg Wheeler.
Meg Wheeler present.
And Gina Stino present. Thank you. Okay, so the first items on the agenda are the remaining warrant articles for special town meeting. The first is Article 3, Stabilization Funds, Project Number 2.
So, by the way, you should be looking for the warrant in your mailboxes next.
George McGoldrick.
And you all have the most final version of it, right?
I believe so. It's not dated, but I do have the most recent one, and there is no Project Number 2.
Okay. All right, let me see. Well, let me see if I can open up a version so I can share with all of you at the same time. Just give me just a second. Basically, it's putting money into the capital reserve account. Capital Budget Committee asked, and even though I'm not free cash certified yet, the select board said, so we slotted in $50,000. So.
Okay, so can you list that again? What's the source of funds? Is it free cash?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble opening this one.
Okay, I'll wait until you get it open, and then it'll make more sense, hopefully, to me.
I'm gonna step aside for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, excuse me.
Jean, I have a question and you can let me know if it's appropriate or not.
Yes,
Am I to assume that the citizens petition is off the warrant?
as far as I know, we'll need to confirm that with Chris.
Okay.
I know that was the intent.
That would be, well,
I get it. I heard you with no words.
that's because we've worked together for so long.
Exactly. We can finish each other's sentences.
I think what we learned from the last citizens petition, or at least I did, was that if the citizens petition is in, I think it can only be, you either have to have a signature from everybody who signed the original one withdrawing it, or it gets withdrawn on town meeting floor. I don't think there's really an easy mechanism to pull it back once it's been initiated and signed, other than town meeting.
Right, and if it's in the warrant, it would have to be addressed at town meeting, so you're not wrong. But I don't know that anybody's going to speak for it. But who knows? I've been wrong before. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about other than what's here? Oh, there's Chris. Did you get it?
Yeah, I did. All right, so this should work. My computer is moving very, very slowly tonight. Don't know why. Let me share. Come share. Can everybody now see this?
Yes. Oh, there it is. Okay. But it went away.
No, sorry. I don't know why it just did that. Oh, come on.
It's the wonders of technology, Chris.
What the heck was that?
Where's a little kid when you need one?
Yeah, you said that to me today, Fran.
I can call on my 11-year-old daughter. She's in the other room.
I'll tell you, my 30-year-old just takes the phone out of your hand and won't let you learn how to fix it. It's a little annoying. But she didn't listen to me when I told her she needed to minor in computer science. And your kids are young, Mark, so you probably didn't have to pay for them for the ferry. That's why it was kind of reasonable.
11 and 8 now. Yeah. I put them in the bed of the pickup truck underneath the tonneau cover. Is that frowned upon?
Hey, we used to tell one of them to duck down.
So it's only bad if you put the dog on the roof, okay?
That will stop you from getting elected president.
And that's a shame, actually.
Yeah,
Other things.
Mm,
that's a whole other tunnel we don't want to go down.
yeah, no, can't do it.
No.
Looney Tunes kind of day.
Whether to laugh or cry about the Attorney General pick. Jeez.
Oh, don't even go there. Oh,
My aforementioned children like these advisory board meetings when mom is traveling because it means their bedtime generally gets pushed back.
last meeting, I think it was last meeting that went kind of long, I think. And Joe went to bed. It was only like 9:15, but he went to bed and he didn't put the dog to bed before he went to bed. So I opened the door and the poor thing's lying there like this, waiting for me to put her in her room. It was like I felt terrible.
Does anybody recall where this rental inspection program came from? I don't recall we talked about it too much. We talked about it, but what was the impetus between implementing this rental housing inspection?
I think it's a state mandate.
Yeah, okay, I hadn't heard of it, but it's probably not a bad idea, but just.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point as well, that we're just getting in line with something we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and some apartment developments do this on a regular basis. I actually have a friend at work who was always frantically going home at lunchtime on the day that the inspection was going to happen so that she could dust the top of her television. I'm like, come on.
General fund.
Free cash.
Can everybody
Yep.
Okay.
All right, can everybody see me? Can see this?
Yeah.
All right. So the original free cash deposit was the OPEB trust fund. Again, this is at the request of the capital budget committee, and the select board was to put something in for capital. Even though we don't have free cash certified, I'm confident that we can meet at least a $50,000 contribution. So the select board voted it to put it in and supported it. And now it's now in front of you folks. Any questions I can answer?
Has the cash been certified yet?
No, it's been filed for. It's been filed for, but it hasn't been certified yet.
Okay. Mike?
Chris, is this for a specific project in capital, or just did they have too many projects for this meeting? for
No.
what's allocated?
It's two things. One, it's just kind of good practice. And the second, though, is, as all of you know, we had some damage at the RTF from a fire. And this is potentially the beginning of a placeholder for money that we might need in the spring, so.
Okay, the second one makes sense, and I guess the good practice thing I hadn't heard before, but I'll take your word for it.
But it is the first, what, in our free cash policy, that one of the first places we put money is into capital stabilization, so. It's one of our best practices.
And Chris, Fran asked about the inspections, the apartment inspections. That's a state mandate, right?
No, well, we have the ability to do it, it's not required.
We have the ability to what?
I'm sorry, did you say, you're talking about inspections?
The inspections.
My question, Chris, was what prompted this the drive to inspect all rental properties? Is it a state requirement? Is something thought was a good idea at the time, or where'd it come from?
No, we have the power, the Board of Health has the power to do it under state law.
Oh, okay.
And it came of conversations over the summer about the preserve. That was I guess the primary driver. And then what came after was the fact that state law will now be permitting basically any single family home to have an accessory dwelling unit part of it. So the potential for additional rental units in town has now gone up a lot. So the Board of Health thought it would be a wise move to stay ahead of this and also to, as we now have more rental units than towns ever had before. And we need, it's just good practice to ensure that they're safe.
So that if you build, let's say I built an addition on my house so that I could put my mother and father in, that would constitute rental property?
No, not unless you're taking rent. If they're just living with you, that's great.
Okay,
If
all
they're,
right.
yeah, no, if you have your kids living with you, or your parents, or, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's not rented, but if you have an agreement where you're getting rent from them, then it would be a rental.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So does anybody have any more questions about number 2? Because we did recommend approval for number 1. So we just have to vote this one.
No, I have any problems.
No more questions? Okay. So could I have a motion to recommend, Article 3 stabilization funds, project number 2? Okay.
Second,
All in favor? Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
All right,
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
and Jean Estino, aye. Okay, so the next item, I have a very small desk here, so, is Article 4, allocation of funds for one-time cost project number 6, which is free cash for the fire department for the airlifting
Okay.
bags.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we talked about these, didn't we?
Yeah,
Did, but it was in a different part of the warrant.
Got it.
It got moved.
Yeah, this was a capital, but it's below the capital threshold of 10.
Right, that's
Let's put it here.
capital's, what's capital's threshold now, 10?
And it's been 10,000. It's just,
10.
it was so close that it just,
Right,
we just moved it here. And they've actually already ordered them because we have to get ahead of this. So this will be a reimbursement, I think, of our existing funds.
okay, how long does it take to get them?
I don't know. Chief Docker was not entirely sure. So I said, please accelerate this. I said, if we can't
Yeah.
use the ones, we need to have them as soon as possible. So.
Yeah.
he's-
Not that it would change my vote, just out of curiosity, do they last forever until they're used? Like they don't like,
They actually have they have a service life, believe it or not.
do they?
So
Well,
I
probably
don't know how,
Probably
our-
because of stressors on them.
What was that?
Stressors. You know, when you're using them to lift.
No, my question was if they don't go used, would they go bad sitting on a shelf? Was my question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the answer is yes, even like bottled water, right? This is, by the way, doesn't mean they wouldn't work. It just means that they're not being supported anymore. And if anything happened, they would support the,
Gotcha.
I don't know what happened if it didn't work.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? If not, then could I have a motion to recommend this Article 4, allocation of funds for one-time costs number 6 for the airlifting bags?
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Roll call, please. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mark Maggi,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, I.
and Gina Stino, aye.
yeah, that takes care of that one.
Okay. So the next item is Article 6, capital improvements projects. And we had a lengthy discussion on this before, Chris, so maybe you could kind of do a summary for us. And I have a note that we approved the general fund item,
Yeah,
But
you
but not
Yep.
the enterprise fund information. So,
correct. So there are 3 here, as you see, that are all being paid out of retained earnings. Water main on Short Street, a new water main at Cedar, which is going to create a loop. The system ends down by the BPW yard, so this will put a loop in, which will help improve water quality and flow up there. And then there's some upgrades to the chlorine equipment over at the treatment center on Woolly Pond. And all of these 3 items, again, I don't remember the exact amount of retained earnings, but it's well north of $1 million. So they're comfortable. They have the amount, they have the cash to pay for this.
okay, and there are price points, there are amounts next to those 3 items. And how about
Yeah.
the,
It's $260 for the water main, for the Short Street's $215 for the Cedar Street, and then $60,000 for the,
right? Okay,
and then each
So-
capital vote for each.
and please refresh my memory because I do not recall whether we did the school special stabilization funds. We already did those, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so we're just voting on projects number 1, 2, and 3. Does anybody have any questions? If not, then I would take a motion to recommend these 3 items.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
aye,
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, I.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, great.
Hey, Chris, can we see the general fund figures, the numbers? Just wanted to double check they're the same numbers we saw a couple weeks ago. Okay, so 15. So the patrol rifles are, because I think when we voted before, the patrol rifles were 24,000, not 17. And then
I think they did come down, yeah.
and then the fire alarm was 1.2 million, not 1.43. And then did the walk-in cooler get taken out for
Yeah.
elder affairs?
It did.
Okay, so that's gone. Okay, so these are different numbers, some different dollar amounts. So we should probably revote these again, right?
That would make sense.
Okay,
I wasn't,
Um,
I wasn't with you when you looked at these, so I don't have direct personal knowledge of what you did last time. So,
I'll move that we vote to approve projects 4, 5, and 6 with updated amounts.
Okay,
do I have a second?
Second,
Who was that, please?
Mark Cameron.
Thank you. Okay, all right.
Can I-
Roll call.
Can I ask
Go
you a
ahead.
quick question? You know,
Yes,
how often do dollar figures change like this? You know, we reviewed it once, we approved it, and now we're just actually seeing it because of these other projects. And Mike realized that the pricing had changed. So how often do they change, and are we made aware of the changes prior to the warrant being published?
They change a lot, Vince.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, we gotta kind of be on the lookout because we don't always get told until they're in print.
I have to say though, Mike, that the numbers that I have jotted down here are the correct numbers. So I'm wondering if, were you at the last meeting? Maybe not?
Was that last week? If there was a meeting last week, I was not.
Okay, and I'm wondering if that's when we discussed this, because like I said, I do have 1,430,000. It seems like I have the right numbers in my, just handwritten.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at a draft, an older draft, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, because the draft I had, the rifles were 24,000.
No, and I actually have the rifles at 17 printed, not handwritten. So this is a newer version than the one that you have.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay,
we didn't meet last week.
I'm looking at a version that Mike has as well. I got the 24, the 1,000,002. So
but when you met with the select board on
2
What
weeks
day?
ago.
2 weeks ago, then Michelle covered for me while I stayed with the select
Right.
board, and she had the updated numbers on these projects when she met with them.
right. And I don't know if you heard me say, I had jotted down a couple of changes, but the patrol rifles are 17 and the copy of the warrant that Mike has is like the previous generation, I believe. So it's kind of dicey in the lead up to town meeting, Vince,
okay.
because there are a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, I just didn't get an updated warrant documentation. I'm still going off the one that Tracy sent back in, this is 10/21, I believe.
Okay, this last one that I have in front of me is the last one that we got, and we were told this will be the last one before you get the official one.
All right,
So-
I'll take a look in my inbox, but I don't know if I actually got the updated town warrant. I got the agenda, but not the updated warrant.
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I don't think I
speaking-
did either, so
Okay.
I'll look through my inbox though.
Okay, and speaking of which, well, never mind, I'll bring that up after. Okay, so we voted and,
I just sent you, Gene, and Mary the final proof version of it that we just got back
okay,
Monday from. But I can't, my cell phone is not letting me put everybody's email into this, so if Mary, if you get it, if you could distribute it to us, the committee, that would be great. But this is,
okay,
so what I'm sending along is what you're seeing here, which you'll get in the mail when you get it.
okay, terrific, thank you.
Jean,
I know
I'll forward that through right now for everybody.
Thanks, Mary. I know that some people weren't getting emails for some reason a couple of weeks ago, so there is a good possibility that you didn't get it, guys. I don't know why that happened, but it did,
Okay,
so. I
thank
was
you.
kind of frantically trying to make sure that everybody had all the pieces together, but I'm not confident that that happened. So we didn't do the roll call on this. Did we?
No, I interrupted just before
No,
roll call.
because we had questions. Sorry. Okay, so Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Fran Collins. Mark Maggi,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
and Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, I.
and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, thank you.
Gene, I had one question. And
Okay,
just what was the walk-in cooler at the at Wilcott was removed? Chris, any reasons why that was pulled?
Yes, but I couldn't tell you why.
Okay.
There was a legitimate reason for it, but I know Michelle, I talked about it, but it was what it was. So.
Is it
I'm
something
gonna
we'll
ask-
probably expect to see at a later date? Just-
Potentially, or we find another way to fix it. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Thanks.
okay. So the next item is Article 9. And that's a petition the legislature for additional all alcohol annual licenses, and I can't wait to hear this one.
So, the town of Cohasset has not had an increase in its on-premises license count, as far as we can tell, if ever, many years ago. The town's population has increased significantly. The number of restaurants has increased significantly, and having a license to serve alcohol is often an advantage when you're trying to build out a restaurant. No matter what it is, whether it's Mexican or Chinese or American or seafood or what have you. And the town has now used them all up. 4 of them are, there are 10 that are at what might be considered more traditional restaurants, and there are 4 at other locations that serve food. And so they're all gone. And there's at least one other facility that now is looking for one, and there isn't one to give them. So the select board just debated this and said, hey, we should petition the state to try to get more of these, without understanding that we may not get as many as we asked for, but it may take a couple of years, because Marshfield's been trying for this for 3 to 5 years. To get any new ones, and they just got approved. Boston did just get 250 new ones. I think everyone saw that in the papers. The restaurant scene in Cohasset has really been thriving. It's an important part of the town's economic development, and it also generates a nice amount of meals tax revenue, which helps ease the property tax burden. So it's and again, there's a nice restaurant scene, and there's an expectation that might be a couple of others. There's a couple of others that just have beer and wine that might want to expand further. And there are some that don't have any at the moment. But the select board did issue the last one last month to a restaurant that's going in up on 3A. So the board said,
How
hey,
many are there currently?
there's 14 currently. But that includes the ones that are at the Legion and the Yacht Club and the golf tavern, and there's another one I'm forgetting that are not, the golf club and the Yacht Club with him. So those are member restricted. So I mean, I guess if you're invited, you can go. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just they're not as generally applicable. And so the other there's 10 that are at various restaurants on it. And there's one of them is the Red Lion has one. So as an innkeeper, but you're only allowed, the town is only allocated 14 on premises. So that's and again, at the moment they're all used up. So.
Okay, Mark,
Chris, I think recently the Blue Orc closed. Is that license being transferred to a new vendor?
So yes, so Mark, as I understand it, Nick Carlisle, who used to run Mr. Dooley's, one private incarnation of the Blue Orc, I saw him in town hall the other day. They're in the process of buying that facility, and they're going to be seeking to transfer the license. So yeah, that's going to be maintained.
All right, thank you.
is it going to come back as something else, or is it going to come back as a Dooley's, or is it going to come back?
I think I heard him say his working name is the Brig, but I'm not going to hold him to that. That's
Okay.
but and that's going to take a couple months to transfer. They always take some time. So
Okay,
but
well,
that should close sometime in next.
Mike?
Yeah, Chris, one of my favorite spots, Old Salt, has been closed. Do they lose their license if they don't operate for a certain amount of time?
So that's a good question. So they have been closed because of issues they've had with their kitchen. They don't automatically lose it at the same time. They're going in for renewal, and I believe the select board, and we've asked them, by the way, and they said, no, we're opening in the spring, we're opening in the spring. That said, the select board can put them on notice if they have not used it for a period of time, that they need to come up with a plan and present it, or that the board can hold a hearing about rescinding the license for lack of use.
Okay, well, maybe they can just open the bar. They don't need the restaurant. That way they don't lose it.
There you go.
Now we really know why you want to go there, Mike.
Best spot on a summer day to be, so.
If they need customers to store their viability, you and I can handle that, Mike.
That's
It's
right.
really,
I'll
it's
be happy to,
it's almost the only waterfront place.
exactly.
So, I mean, there's one place in Situate that's kind of on the water, but not really. We actually, some neighbors and I drove around one time a few years back and said, oh, it's a beautiful, we were at an event. We said, it's a beautiful day. Let's sit outside and get a drink. We couldn't find any place. So that's sad. Okay, so do I have a motion to recommend Article 9 to town meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay, who wants to take that one?
I'll give it to Fran.
Okay,
There's just lots of excitement for this topic.
it's about time. Okay, roll call.
Town.
please. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Magic Eye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, I.
and Gina Stino, aye. Thank you. So we have one more, Article 17, amend MBTA zoning consistent with EOHLC feedback. Well,
So the simplest answer I could give you is what's in the summary here. After receiving feedback from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities on the town's recently passed multifamily housing overlay district, the town was directed that it needed to amend that bylaw to eliminate the special permit required for stormwater management. So while this was pre-cleared, everything was given a green light on final review, and the Attorney General's office gave it a green light. The state has now said, no, you have to make this additional change. So that's what this does. This makes a tweak to the adoption to eliminate the requirement for a special permit for stormwater management, and then this would be considered okay by the state.
Anybody have questions on this one? Mike?
Chris, so do we know whether the zoning board of appeals has voted on this yet?
I don't know. I did not hear that there was any opposition to it. But I don't know that, Mike. I don't have that answer.
Okay, I mean, there were 2 votes against on the planning board, so I guess I'm wondering what that, what that side was thinking when they voted that way. I mean, we don't have a choice really with this zoning anyway, right? That was what we were told last spring, so.
So the case, there is, the Milton, I don't want to go into a long legal discussion of this, but the Milton and others have sued, and the Supreme Judicial Court is hearing this. That said, the consensus that I've heard from some is that even if they win, all it'll do is be sent back for new rulemaking. It won't change the requirement. It'll just change the time period to come into compliance. But again, we don't know that for sure. So the other element of this that it was discussed is that this is just creating a district does not require any of this ever to be built. And right now, I don't know that anyone believes that there's any economic viability to build housing on any of these sites. There's active businesses there already, and it's unlikely that they want to sell.
Okay, and the current copy of the warrant, Mike, that is on the screen says zoning board of appeals recommendation at special town meeting. So, but it was recommended unanimously by the select board, so I think there's no harm, no foul if we go ahead and do our recommendation. Does anybody object to that?
Can I ask a question about, does this mean that any of this development in that transit area shall not have to be concerned with stormwater?
No, this is a special permit area that required you still have to meet stormwater rules. But this required a special permit, like an enhanced stormwater review process, Fran, as I understood it. You still have to meet stormwater requirements in other parts of the town. It's just not a special permit. You just have to meet the rules. That's what caused this to be a problem, was that it required an extra level of approval that the state says you can't force onto a development in a zone like this. You still have to meet basic requirements. You still have to contain your stormwater.
Well, I mean, regardless whether it ever gets built or not, but the areas that we've delineated as this particular zoning area, they're all very much in wetlands. So obviously there's got to be some stormwater protections. But if that's the case, then okay, I'm fine with that.
Any more questions, discussion? Okay, then do I have a motion to recommend Article 17 to the warrant for town meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins. Excuse me, Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, I.
and Gina Stino, aye.
Just to follow up on your question, Mike, they're scheduled to discuss, there was, I guess, according to the last agenda, they were supposed to be talking about this last night. The zoning board had a meeting last night, but they haven't posted any minutes yet, so you could watch, I guess, a replay of their meeting. It was on their agenda at the very end to discuss this article.
Okay,
I don't know what happened.
so that is the end of the warrant articles, but then there's also a request for reserve fund transfer, $13,500 for rental inspection program software.
So the request, so Pam Fay, the Director of Public Health, asked if there was any way to accelerate the purchases. Because if we wait till December 9th, we won't be able to get everything in line with the holidays and everything else and getting the system set up. She asked if there was a way to accelerate. I said I could ask. So the request is to have advisory fund it now, which would allow the purchases to take place now. And then should town meeting approve this, which I expect it will, then the money could just be returned to the reserve. It would just be kind of like an advance. We've done that before, and in this case, I hadn't planned to do this, but Pam has asked, and the Board of Health has asked, only because they want to get this up and running in January, and every extra week they have is just going to make that more possible.
Okay, any comments, discussion, questions? mean,
Just a quick comment, Chris, is there, like, there's nothing coming down from the RTF facility or anything like that would also require any kind of reserve funds on?
No, not at this point. The good news on that, we had the select board adopted an emergency declaration, which allows us to operate a little bit differently financially, so we can, and again, don't be freaked out by the words I'm about to use. We can deficit spend in advance of the insurance settlements. We have to obviously track all this, and we're not going to be silly about it, but we don't have to. It allows us to loan ourselves money in advance and with an expectation of insurance proceeds coming and all that. So at this point, no, I don't think we'll need to do anything.
Okay.
That said, there will be a bigger conversation, and Vince was part of the conversation as Scoutmaster today,
And
about
advisory board member.
and he was wearing both hats, but he was there primarily as a scoutmaster. And we are going to have more conversation about the future of the RTF and improving it. So I think I think it's likely there'll be something that will come in front of the community in the spring to do some additional work up there. That said, for now, I don't think we're going to need to do anything because of the flexibility insurance that the emergency declaration gives us.
Okay, I was just double checking that there wasn't anything else that would pull resources away. That's all. Thank
This
you.
is a great opportunity to re-engineer that whole RTF at this point.
That's the goal.
That would be nice. Mike?
Yeah, so Chris, so just so I understand, so Article 4, the town will vote on that, which includes the 13,500 for the rental inspection program. Assuming that gets passed, then that will then come back into the reserve, which we are voting to use tonight.
So yeah, so I would, to make it super clean, if somebody makes this motion, you could say with an understanding that any money past that town meeting for the same purpose would revert to the reserve fund. That'll just make it, I mean, that's my intent, but you folks saying that officially in the documents also makes it easy for our accountants.
I will be happy to make that motion when the time is correct, when it's appropriate.
Well, if there's no more discussion, it's appropriate now, Mike.
So I'll move that we vote to approve the request for reserve fund transfer for 13,500 with the understanding that the funds will be replaced after a successful vote at the fall town meeting on Article 4.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I had duplicate voices, so who said
Harry can take it.
what?
Harry can take it.
Okay. Okay, Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, I.
and Gina Stino, aye. Very good. So next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for October 23rd and October 29th. Does anybody have any comments or corrections?
Nope.
No? Okay, so could I have a motion to approve minutes from our October 23rd, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Moved.
And could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mark Maggi,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton.
And that was my question to you earlier, Gene. Do I vote on minutes that I was not a part of?
Technically, you can, as long as you've looked at them and read them.
Okay, I never got them.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we discussed that. Okay, so you don't have to vote on this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, Meg Wheeler.
I was not present, so I will abstain.
Okay, and Gina Stino, aye. So let me just make a note.
Vince, quick question. Do you have a Cohasset Mass email yet or not? When I just forwarded the
I do not.
warrant, I sent it to your other account.
Yeah, I did get it in my other account. I don't have a Cohasset.
Okay.
And I did note that today, so we'll have to fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so the October 29th meeting, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, I took Mary on that one. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins,
Aye.
Mark Maggi,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Meg Wheeler,
I'm going to
You-
abstain from these as well, since I was not.
Sure, okay, and Gina Stino, aye. Okay, so we don't typically have topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours, but I had learned yesterday that there was a meeting at 9:30 about the RTF. And I knew that Vince was going to be attending with his Boy Scout hat on. So I asked him if he could also do a listen for us and just kind of give us a little bit of an update with, along with Chris, conversation about what exactly is going on there. I'm getting a lot of questions. I'm sure that you guys are too. I don't typically go there unless I really have to, because my husband is retired. So, but used to be a fun trip sometimes.
Indeed. There was a lot of, there were a good number of folks there, about 20 folks there. At least.
Your microphone isn't working right. Sorry.
Is that better?
No, you sound a little crunchy.
Oh, there you go. Maybe the battery's dying. Maybe I'll just take it off. Is that better?
Yes, much. Thank you.
Okay, let me turn up the volume here. All right, can everybody hear me now?
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I'm on this all day long, so sometimes the battery does wear down, so apologize for that. There were a good representation across the town. And a lot of the conversation is what has been done, what was damaged, what has been done to repair, to get things done immediately. We got kudos from the consultant, the RTF consultant that was actually hired just before this accident occurred, getting this back up to speed in such a short period of time. But it got back up in a short period of time where people then expected everything to be back up fully 100%, the way it was. So there's going to be a lot of iterations of steps to open up certain factors. There's definitely some hurdles. It's all cash right now. There's no electronics in the facilities to support any portable or hardwired facilities to have things paid for in cash. There are definitely certain things that are closed as the insurance companies come in and evaluate certain historical procedures and how they want things to go in the future. So there's a lot of dialogue in that regard. I believe the Brian Joyce and Michelle Leary and a few other folks will be meeting with the insurance team later on this week. We do have a third-party adjuster evaluating the insurance proposals as well. It's not going to happen overnight. It's definitely something that's going to be multi-staged. And I believe it was Kate Duggan said that we got to evaluate this from what's going to be covered from an insurance perspective and what is not going to be covered from an insurance perspective, and what can we, what's on the wish list, what do we want to get acquired done? Everybody wants this immaculate RTF situation. As Chris pointed out during the meeting, he's never seen such a social environment at our RTF, and people do spend a lot of time when they get caught up in conversations up there. There were not a lot of decisions made. I don't think there were any decisions made in the meeting today, but there was just a lot of information and transparency. There were people assigned for certain factors, insurance liaisons. Kevin was working on social media. I know there was a barrage of social media over the weekend that may not have been positive, but it's the normal response to people with change, and people don't like change, so they voice it. Any questions specifically?
Mark.
Maybe this is a little bit more for Chris and less about the RTF, but related there. We lost a big piece of equipment in the barn there, in the metal building, that I believe is also doubles as a piece of equipment that's used for snow removal in the winter. So with that, and who knows if we'll get snow again here ever, but assuming that we do, is there a fast track for that piece of equipment to be replaced in anticipation for this winter?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
There's a rental unit up there right now.
So we actually have not only on a piece of equipment, we have the ability to purchase it once everything is lined up. So the insurance is on 2 tracks. That's a vehicle insurance, so that's covered one way under one policy. Everything else, different policy. So the adjuster from Amaya for the vehicles coming out, I think in the next couple of days. I mean, anyone's seen it, it's just a big piece of metal now. It's a big piece of smoky metal. So, and we do have full replacement value. The truck is and the vehicle is only a year old with, regular use, but it was still really good shape. So we're anticipating full replacement.
Did we lose any other vehicles?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, that's the only thing that was stored up there. We lost some other equipment, which is part of the challenge, right? The IT equipment is Vince was referring to before. We lost the cameras and the cables and all of that stuff, so that all has to be replaced. And there's the electricity has to be rerun, and that's actually happening now. And the site's never had them. There's always been a porta potty, right? I realized that the office is down the hill, but when you're up there on the shift, you can't just leave, right? So there's now an office, and we're exploring ways to to make that facility a little bit nicer too, that temporary workspace that's there. So.
Fran?
Yeah, I would hope that, I don't know how many of you folks went to the Situate dump, RTF, still a dump to me, but anyway.
Me too.
And saw how incredibly well run and well organized that was. I had never been in there. And I was just blown away with how organized it was. And I mean, I don't think we could have something as big as that. Now, we probably don't need something quite that big, but boy, that's something to look long and hard at before we get spending any money to improve what we have that sort of worked,
So we had been discussing this as Vince referenced to before this happened. We knew that we had to start looking at some changes up there because it wasn't sustainable from a staffing perspective, much less anything else. And as the rules keep changing on us, right? The state's been talking about food composting. Where on earth are we going to do food composting, right? I mean, so this presented that. I mean, we weren't particularly happy about this, obviously. That said, it's not moved that whole conversation up to a much faster degree. And again, there's ways. There's some things that'll probably end up having to change, and things that'll be made better. And and one of the conversations is there's a small community vibe that goes up there, right? The sports teams all, which I think provide assistance to residents, right, to help to raise a little fundraising,
right,
and then people socialize occasionally. You run into somebody you haven't seen, right? So we have to try to find a way to preserve what of that we can. Plus the Boy Scouts, right? The Boy Scouts have had that recycling center forever. I didn't realize it went back to 1983. So we're trying to find an interim space for the Scouts, by the way, so they can maybe not on that site, but somewhere that they can get their recyclable program continued, because I know it's important. And then we'll figure out what else we can do up there. So there'll be more community conversation about this for sure.
Great. And is there any kind of a hopeful projection on when some of this might happen?
Well, I mean, the fact that we was turned around to reopen in 10 days was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
We're having those conversations now. I think based on where we are and where we need to be, I think we'd have to have some kind of a plan for public conversation relatively soon after the new year, if we're going to get this, if we're going to have to go to town meeting for any action.
In the spring.
Yeah. So and those conversations are happening. So I think there'll be some meetings, and we might have some smaller group meetings, or we may have a couple of public meetings, bigger public meetings of various boards together. We'll see. It's a lot of people do have private pickup, but still a lot of people use the facility at one time or another anyway. Something, even if you have private pickup, you come up there for something. It's important. We're just not a marketplace, right? I mean, the single biggest problem we've had up there before this happened was staffing. Getting people to work on a weekend, because it's, you know, it's a Wednesday through Sunday operation. And getting people with licenses, right? You have to have certain licenses to work up there to move the equipment. So we need to approach this in a little different way, I think, to make it an accessible, safe service, and also to get staffing, so that we can keep an operation and safe.
So I'm thinking that a reasonable response for people who are asking when out and about would be potentially, hopefully before spring town meeting, but probably not much before, or maybe even after, if we need additional funds.
I think, you know, we have to think about what has to happen, what's realistic, right?
Right.
And what's going to cost and how to pay for it, right? Obviously the goal would be to have as minimal impact on folks as possible, and probably to make it, you know, paid for by people who use the facility as much as possible. So, you know, again, I'm not going to speculate on what that may turn into, but, you know, we're going to have we've already had some conversation about ways to do this in a value-driven way, both fiscally and, you know, philosophically. So we'll get there. And again, so if you have any ideas, Fran, you know where Brian is. So feel free.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the key messages about recycling is any non-household trash. You know, they're trying to recycle as much as possible. So there were some comments about, you know, commingling of the newspapers with the corrugated cardboard. That's the way a number of recycling companies receive that now. So we kind of had that old school paper and one bin and cardboard in another. They're looking to acquire some new self-serve, quote unquote, self-serve recycling units, you know, one for the cardboard and paper that you actually slide it through and it's automatically crushed, as opposed to having some staff working behind the scenes inside that shed that would actually hit the button to compost it or to crush it rather. Same with the plastics. You know, having bins and aluminum cans. So I think they're looking to acquire some newer, more modern compacting equipment, as well as maintaining one of the two that they have right now. One is maybe 3 years old. I'm not sure if that's the paper or the plastic, but
Paper.
cardboard and plastic.
Yeah.
And then the other is over 22 plus years and is hard to maintain in service. So they're taking a holistic approach right now, not just jumping and buying things, you know, thinking that they need it today to solve yesterday's problems, but they're evaluating and trying to put their best foot forward.
And has there been any, I maybe shouldn't ask this, but has there been any conversation about the point of origin for the fire?
Yeah, it has been inspected. You know, it was a spontaneous act. I mean, there's a number of things there that could have gone on fire.
But where did they think that it started? In the dump? Sorry.
You know, it started, you know, either right inside or behind one of the sheds. You know, again, we take batteries and we take paint and we take, you know, oil and it's been really dry. I mean, the good news of all this, right, is that it didn't spread. You know, considering if the wind went the wrong way, it could have blown onto the landfill. It could have, you know, blown onto the
Right.
wood. It didn't. So we're really fortunate that nothing spread. And the other thing is the cleanup that's been taking place has also been pretty good. I mean, you know, there's been less material that had to be removed than we thought or feared initially in the area that got burned, which is good. So the state, to the best of my knowledge, and the state fire marshal has not released, except that it was accidental. They have not released a definitive cause.
Okay, great. And once that is released, can we have access to that?
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
state fire
become
marshal.
public record, right?
Yeah, I mean, they may not come up with a conclusion. I mean, you know, nobody was hurt, and you know,
Right.
it may not be possible. I mean, you know, you know, there's, you know, everything was kind of in close proximity. I mean, everything was stored legitimately, but it was yeah, there was a tight little zone there. So.
All right. So does anybody else have any comments that they want to make? then I would accept a motion to adjourn at 8:05.
The only thing I'll just remind is that
Yeah.
for the annual town, before the special meeting, if you hold one more meeting in advance to decide if anyone's gonna speak on any of the articles, if you think it's necessary. I mean, it should be a comparatively routine meeting, I think, but you might want to just think about that before December 9th.
I don't think there's anything contentious in this whole warrant, to be honest with you. I mean, we've been here, oh, there is one more question. Do you know for sure that the citizen petition will be
Oh, I'm
withdrawn?
sorry. So at the last select board meeting, two of the lead petitioners came up and spoke. And they indicated they would be, based on the additional information they've received about the processes for hiring and all of this, all of that, they're working to, they're working towards withdrawing the petition on town meeting floor. That's their intent. That's what they spoke in, so you can watch the video. That's what they said publicly. I expect that's where they're going. They have a Elder Affairs Board meeting, I believe, next Monday. Well, they'll talk about this a little bit more. And then there's a number of people who signed a petition they need to talk to so people can understand.
I understand that the petitioners all have to be in agreement before it gets withdrawn. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know that you need to have 137 people all saying no, withdraw.
No,
I
the
mean,
people who's, okay, no, the people who are on the warrant as,
and the 10 lead petitioners, I mean, anyone can make a motion to indefinitely postpone, right? So, I mean, the moderator tends to want to have a public conversation as long as somebody's proponent of something. That said, I think their goal is to wind this down so that they'll speak with one voice and say, based on X and X, we're going to withdraw. That's what they publicly stated. That was Coffee Enough Day with Paul Kirstein at the select meeting on November 6th.
okay. Mary, did you have a question?
That answered it. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so now I will accept a motion to adjourn that took a whole 5 minutes, so it's 8:10.
So moved.
Okay.
And who moved it?
Mark. Cameron.
Thank you.
Let's say, you gotta be more specific.
All right, so do we have and we have in a second. So now we have to take a roll call again. Mike Barclay,
Mike Barclay, aye.
Mark Cameron,
Cameron, aye.
Fran Collins.
Aye.
Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Vince Thornton,
Vince Thornton, aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
and Gina Stino. Aye. Thank you very much. We may need another meeting. I will keep you guys posted, okay?
And as we say goodnight, remember that the board and committee thank you night is tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
so even if you have an RSVP, you're most welcome to attend. It's at Wilkin Commons
Yeah,
at
there you go.
6:30.
6:30.
There'll be some coffee and light dessert, so feel free to come and bring friends. That's tomorrow night. So
What
see you
is
anyway.
that, Chris?
It's at Wilkin Commons. I'm sorry.
What
It's
is that?
the annual board and committee thank you recognition event.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So everyone's invited, who serves on any board committee.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'll see some of you tomorrow night then. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank
Good night,
you.
all.
Have a good
FYI, the girls won tonight, so
Oh, nice, awesome.
0-0 when I left, so.
yeah, 1-0. So boys play tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.